over the last couple months, we've had the chance to feature the 2019 Ford F-150 as well as the all-new 2019 Ram 1500. So it's about time we take a look at what General Motors has to offer. Our spotlight is on this 2019 Chevrolet Silverado High Country. This represents the top-end trim sold here in Canada, and it starts at $65,800 Canadian. There's $12,190 in options, including the 6.2-liter EcoTec V8 engine up front. So we're going to be going over everything about this truck, taking it on a road test, and going over everything you need to know if you're in the market for a new light-duty pickup truck. Now we're filming this on a very crisp Friday morning. Truck says it's minus 17 degrees Celsius outside. Feels like minus 28 degrees with the wind chill. I'm also coming off about a week of being sick. I was pretty much unable to do anything over the last few days, so my voice hasn't fully recovered yet. I apologize if I don't sound as good as usual, but if I don't film this today, we're not getting it done. So I want to get this done today. The truck is more or less clean as well, because we've had a lot of snow over the last little while, so it gives me an opportunity to go over it, even though I don't feel that great. So let's go over some of the options. $12,000 worth of options. That's the #1 comment I get. Both of the Ram videos that we did, more so than the Ford F-150, even though the F-150 had an MSRP in the 80,000s, these are still pretty expensive trucks. So $1,195 for the iridescent pearl tri-coat paint, $1,325 for the power sunroof, not panoramic, $2,985 for the engine. 6.2-liter EcoTec V8 produces 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque, so this is the top-end motor you can get on the Silverado. An option that probably nobody's gonna take is $3,925 for the 22-inch high-gloss black rims. Again, something that most people probably aren't gonna be buying. $19.95 for the tech package. You get an HD SurroundVision camera system, which I think is really good, a rear camera mirror, which we've seen on Cadillac products, but it's even better than before, and a 15-inch color head-up display, so that's a very worthwhile package. $855, you get the safety package too, which you get forward collision, lane keep, and lane departure, low-speed forward auto braking, pedestrian braking, high beam assist, forward distance indicator, and a safety alert seat. Basically rumbles your seat instead of beeping when the parking sensors go off, because there are parking sensors on the front and back of this truck. But I mentioned there is brake assist and there is forward distance indicator. Even though this truck has all the components to allow you to have active cruise control, it does not have active cruise control. Regular cruise control with a distance notifier, so it'll tell you if you're 0.1 seconds from hitting the car in front of you. It won't do anything about it unless you're going to crash into it. So keep that in mind. The GMC Sierra Denali that we're going to have technically a week from now, we're picking it up after this, but we're going to film it a little bit after, doesn't have active cruise control either. Both the Ram and Ford F-150 that we featured had active cruise control, so keep that in mind. Now let's talk about some of the features and what's new. I mean, the whole truck is new for 2019. They've given it a new look. With the High Country here, we have a very unique grille with some copper design on the front. You have triple LED reflector headlights. Now, they put in the description that they're reflector based. I believe if you go on the lower trims, they're regular LED. I don't know what the difference is. I've used it at night. They do work just as well as any of the other LED headlights we've used in a pickup truck. There are LED fog lights at the bottom. There are LED taillights on the back, not the reverse lights though, and not on the lights for your license plate, but the interior lighting is all LED, as well as the lighting for your bed. You have power folding mirrors, keyless entry to the vehicle on all 4 doors. You can lock or unlock. You have a remote starter, fixed running boards instead of a power option. You can get it. I think they just optioned it here because it's Quebec and you're going to get full of ice and buildup. So you can get the automatic running boards on this. We don't have them on here. And as I mentioned, the 360-degree HD surround view system really works well. The quality is exceptional, on par with what we saw on the Ram 1500. So really good stuff going on there. We really appreciate manufacturers putting high quality equipment on these vehicles, especially at this price point. It's good to have. Now we're going to jump around back, talk about some of the features there, and then we'll go on the inside. Around back here, there isn't really a killer feature, not like we saw in the Ram 1500, where they really did put a lot of engineering to make a lot of new things for the truck market. The back here, there's only one real big feature. I'll show you. You can open up the trunk. We saw this on the Ram 1500, where it'll lower down nice and slowly, power operated. But the one thing that really does set this apart, and if it's an important feature for you, the Chevrolet allows you to lift it back up on its own. You can do it from here. There's a button on the inside to lower it and then close it. It's just the fob. The fob, you can open it, but you have to go back either to the button or inside to put it back up. But aside from that, the back end here, again, relatively similar to what we've seen on previous models of the Chevrolet Silverado. You've got the big Chevrolet badging there, Silverado High Country. But aside from that, I think it looks good. Dual exhausts, parking sensors, steps to help you get into the back. And that's about it, plus the trailer hitch. So let's jump on the inside now. We'll talk about the features there, and we'll take it on a road test. As an automotive journalist and not necessarily a truck enthusiast, and I say that because it's not like I'm coming from an older Chevrolet Silverado, and we find with a lot of the trucks, there's a lot of brand loyalty, so people really will just only buy whatever they like. So as an automotive journalist, I'm a little disappointed on here because it is so similar to the previous generation. They haven't gone and reinvented anything on the inside here. Now that might not be a bad thing for most buyers. Again, for me, I would have liked to see the bar get raised, just like we saw with the Ram 1500. New for 2019, Chrysler did a lot. New for 2019, GM has updated, but it doesn't feel like they've reinvented it. On the inside here, we have jet black with umber perforated leather seats. I think they're nice. They're comfortable. They have 10-way power adjustment for both the front seats here, heat and ventilation. Plus, you have the option to either have just the back portion heated or the back and the bottom. So nice things there. You also have an 8-inch cluster information computer, fully color. You can go through and see your navigation information, not the map itself, but just where you are, your phone, music, and other information there. Now, the 15-inch color HUD is really spectacular. The only thing is I find it's a little dim compared to the competition, not just necessarily in the truck market, but in general. If the brightness could be adjusted more than I can do on the buttons here, I'd be really happy. But you have a lot of information there. I think it's really cool. It is the biggest HUD we've seen so far that we've tested on test drive. Now, the 8-inch navigation system will feel a little bit smaller. It is a slight bit smaller than the Uconnect system we saw on the Ram Rebel, and obviously a lot smaller than the 12-inch one that we saw on the Ram Limited. But it does work well. It is an updated version of GM's Infotainment System, so you do have a home page, navigation, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, 4G LTE, and SiriusXM Radio. Plus the Bose audio system in here. Sounds pretty good. So again, if you're not going for all the crazy tech stuff, this works really well. And I do like it when you put your phone on the Qi wireless charger in the center, it will show up on the home menu that your phone is charging. So I like that. Usually you have to fumble, make sure it works. So showing it on the screen is a huge plus. They have dual zone automatic climate control up front. The third in the back isn't a zone itself. There's just 2 vents in the center, plus foot flow as well. You have HomeLink, a dual glove box, a leather dashboard. It looks nice with the 2-tone for the interior here. Heated rear seats with USB, and storage not only underneath the seats, but also in the backs of the seat backs. Now, there's 2 little things I want to talk about before we jump to the big killer feature in this truck. First of all, there is a button to lower all 4 windows at the same time. I've never actually seen that on any trucks before, but to be fair, this is the first Chevrolet truck that I've driven. Wasn't a feature that I remember seeing on the 2018 Sierra. So you can lower all 4 windows at the same time, but then you can't use this button to pull them back up. I don't know if that's a really useful thing. Let me know in the comments if you would use a button to put all the windows down automatically. The other thing is the auto start stop system. People don't like them. The button is here, but you do have to push it every time you start the truck up, and I know people find that annoying. Now let's go to the killer feature, the rear view camera system. And we saw this originally on the Cadillac CT6 and Cadillac Escalade, but this one is even better. I find that not only is the image quality sharper, the color accuracy is almost perfect. The camera on here has been improved significantly. Now, there are some features with it on top of that. There's 3 buttons here that I originally mistook as the HomeLink buttons. What they'll do is adjust things like the zoom of the camera, the height of the camera, as well as the brightness. So, for example, if you load your bed up and your back is sitting a little bit lower now, you can adjust the camera to pull it back up. Same thing with the zoom. Perhaps if you have something maybe that's blocking a little bit, you can zoom it in maybe to get through that portion of whatever might be sticking up at the bottom of your camera. So a lot of cool things that you can do with it over what we've seen on the Cadillac products. And again, the quality on it is fantastic. The other benefit of it too is it sits just behind the back of the body. So instead of being on the trunk, where it'll get gunked up with all the road grime and things during the winter, because it's on the back of the roof, it actually hasn't gotten dirty at all. We've gone through some really crappy weather, and it has been clear the entire time. So excellent stuff going on there. It is available on the GMC Sierra that we're going to have in a couple weeks, but I really think that that is the killer feature. Is it more of a killer feature than the Ram 1500's entire suite of new stuff? That's hard to tell. But let's take it on a road test now. We're not going to do it today because it has been, again, rougher weather this week, but not quite what we were hoping. This weekend is supposed to be even worse. So I want to take it in, again, some winter road testing to see how the all-wheel drive system performs, how the EcoTec3 6.2-liter V8 engine works, and everything else that you need to know if you're in the market for a $78,000 pickup truck. It's always a bit of a gamble waiting almost until the last day to film because we're hoping for, rough weather to be able to test the truck out, show you what it really is in the snow. But not only is there nothing, snowed a little bit yesterday, but I'm actually sicker today than I was not only yesterday, but the day before when we filmed a lot of this stuff. So again, I'm sorry, my voice hasn't recovered. It's even worse than it was before. But I gotta get this truck done because if I do not film this portion, despite it not sounding that great, there won't be a video to talk about in the first place. So let's talk about the 2019 Silverado. And the first thing that people are going to be talking about when they buy, especially this specific truck, is that 6.2-liter V8 engine with 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. It really fits up there. It's not quite as fast as the Ford Raptor, but it is up there in terms of power numbers. Has more power than the Ram 1500 with the 5.7-liter Hemi, and it really does do a great job, not only for power. I've had zero issues whatsoever getting up to speed, but even fuel efficiency hasn't been bad at all. We'll talk about those when we do our wrap-up segment, just because we still have to bring the truck back, and that really does set our total driving, but we also have done our 100-kilometer test loop, so we'll talk about the fuel economy numbers after. But the reason why this is more fuel efficient than you might expect is because it does use a cylinder deactivation system, and it is much more advanced than we've seen on a lot of other trucks. It has, according to General Motors, 17 different cylinder deactivation profiles, anywhere from 2 to 8 cylinders. So depending on what you're towing, what you're doing, going downhill, coasting, whatever it may be, the engine will accommodate itself and work as efficiently as it can. And I have noticed it. Fuel economy has not been bad considering we've done a lot. I mean, like an insane amount of in-town stuff over the last couple days. That number will certainly get better when we drop it off. But again, the test loop numbers are pretty much on par with what we see from the other big engines in the pickup truck market. Now, one other thing that helps with the fuel economy is the 10-speed automatic transmission. And I know die-hard truck enthusiasts really prefer their 6-speed automatic, but we've seen 8 speeds become sort of the norm throughout the industry, and 10 speeds on very few vehicles, but something like the Ford F-150. And why that's important is because this uses the same transmission in the Ford F-150, the same asterisk. The hardware is the same. Back in 2013, General Motors and Ford came up with a partnership to say that we're going to work on 9 and 10-speed transmissions for cars, crossovers, SUVs, and pickup trucks. This is that transmission. The thing is, though, the engineers worked together to build the actual hardware, and then once that was done, they both ran off in their separate directions, worked on the transmission control units. So these are mapped differently based on whatever Ford or whatever GM wanted to use. And I have to say that I've had zero issues with this transmission. It doesn't go through all 10 gears, right? That was the thing that we had a lot of people ask too on the Ram 1500. Does it go through all of those gears, all 8 of those gears at the same time? It doesn't. It might go from 1st to 3rd to 5th to 8th to 10th. It depends on how you're driving, depends on what you're towing, depends on which mode you're in. If you're in automatic 4-wheel drive motor like we have been this entire time in 4-wheel high. It depends on a lot of factors, and it is smart enough to not only know which gear it needs to go into, it is effortless. So for example, we're coming to a stop, not quite at a stop, but if I go, the power's there right away. It's at 2,000, 2,200 RPM, picked up, not a delay whatsoever. So this is a really smart transmission, helps with fuel economy, but also just makes life a little smoother. You really do not feel it. And I think that's probably one of the biggest complaints people might have coming into this transmission. No issues whatsoever. I mean, it is smooth. It shifts flawlessly. You'd almost think it's like a CVT, and that's kind of where they're going with these 10 speeds. They're getting closer to that, theory of having a continuously variable transmission without having to worry about it. 10 speeds is quite a bit. I like it. There's no complaints. Now, in terms of the overall ride and handling of this, you'll hopefully be happy to hear that it does feel more like a pickup truck than the Ram 1500 because it uses traditional leaf springs in the back. So you don't have that air ride suspension we saw from Ram. I mean, you do notice that it feels a little bit more truck-like, so it depends on what you're looking for. It is certainly not a negative thing because this is a pickup truck. That's what it's meant to do. It's meant to be that. And I like the ride of it. It's comfortable going over some bumps. You don't feel it that much. When you go over something like a speed bump, though, you will notice it. You'll feel the bump on the front go first, and then you feel the bump on the back go next. So a little different than what we saw on the Ram, but overall, the ride on this is very nice. Even the interior cabin noise isn't bad at all. We were on the highway a lot, not today, but we were on the highway. You can easily have a conversation with the person beside you, anybody who's in the back seat. No complaints there. And it's one of the reasons why this truck is $78,000, because they do work on reducing things like noise, harshness, and vibration, and Chevy has done a great job with that. But if we want to talk about the killer feature when it comes to the 2019 Silverado, because they haven't done as much as Chrysler, it comes down to the video rear view camera system here. And again, it's much more improved over the Cadillac system that we used last year. I really do like it. I think it works well. You're going to have issues no matter where GM decided to put it. If you put it on the cab like they did here, it's great because it's clear all the time. I haven't had to clear it off once during the rough weather that we've had. But the complaint is, okay, if I load up the truck past the point of the window, it'll block the camera. So yeah, it's the same thing as if you didn't have a camera back there and you can't see out the windows anyway. If they put it on the tailgate, it would get gunked up with all the crap weather conditions that we've had here. So no matter where you put it, you lose out. So maybe if they put it on the tailgate, if you live in an area like Texas, you don't get a whole lot of snow. I mean, you really don't get any snow, but it would probably be better in that position for that market. But here in Canada, where you're needing to see out of it when it's snowing all the time, works better on the cab. But I really think it is that one killer feature. Maybe it didn't take as much engineering as the Ram 1500's team did to get everything, really just make this whole new truck for 2019 for them. Even though this is a completely new generation for the Silverado as well, it doesn't feel quite as technologically advanced. We talked about that on our walk around. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, because it hasn't snowed today, we haven't gotten any inclement weather. There isn't a whole lot for me to talk about. I will talk about the 2-speed transfer case here. We do see this on pretty much all the top-end trucks where you have an automatic mode, 4-wheel high, 4-wheel low, and a 2-wheel drive mode. I've kept it in 4-wheel high the whole time, but even if you keep it in automatic, it does do a pretty good job, just because the roads here are really, really crappy. I mean, we haven't had snow since yesterday, and it was really just a dusting. They don't really plow it. If you keep it in 2-wheel drive mode, the back end will kick out quite a bit depending on how much power you give a truck like this. So I like to make sure that I have complete control by keeping it into 4-wheel drive mode, but all the controls are on the left side there. You do have a mode selector as well, so you can put the truck into sport mode, off-road mode, towing mode, or keep it in touring mode. We've kept it again in touring mode the whole time. In the winter, we had some rougher conditions this week. It worked really well, very much on par with the Ram 1500. I'm not going to take it off-road like we did the Rebel because this isn't the off-road trim for the Chevrolet Silverado, so I'm not going to be taking it. Even though it's not really an off-road course, I don't need to make that phone call to GM to say, hi, I got your truck stuck. So we're going to keep it on the road, but the Bridgestone Blizzak tires on this do work very well. I've been a little worried over the last couple weeks about getting some of these episodes of Test Drive out on time. For example, this Silverado has been sitting on my computer for a week now waiting for me to do this voiceover, but I haven't been able to speak for the last 6 days. I have laryngitis, and even right now it isn't perfect, but in order for me to get this video out on time, I need to record it. And not only that, I don't even have the episode for next week filmed as of Sunday, because I haven't been able to speak for more than a week. So the fact that I am getting this done the day before is not really the greatest, but I am glad that it is finally done. So I hope that you guys bear with me through the voiceover and keep that in mind for next week as well. On our other recording equipment, you don't hear it quite as much, but in this stuff, you definitely do. On to the likes and dislikes for the 2019 Chevrolet Silverado High Country. First off, fuel economy out of this 6.2-liter V8 monster was surprisingly good, doing 12.1 liters per 100 kilometers, or around 19 US miles per gallon, during our 100-kilometer test loop. That was 0.3 liters per 100 kilometers better than the Ram 1500 Limited. However, our 455-kilometer week averaged out to be 16.7 liters per 100 kilometers, or 14 mpg, which is quite a bit lower than the 13.6 we did with the Ram. Other likes for us included the overall engine power, along with the option for 6 engines, including GM's 3-liter turbo diesel coming later this year. The rearview camera is easily the standout feature for the 2019 Silverado, providing an exceptional feed from the back of the cab, on top of the other 4 cameras that make up the HD SurroundVision system, though GM's attempt at AR isn't as good as we've seen on something like the BMWs. The power open and closing rear tailgate is also one of the few in-your-face features exclusive to the Silverado, as both the 2019 Ram 1500 and Ford F-150 trucks that we've tested this year featured a soft opening, but none with a power close feature. And finally, the price is competitive with the rest. Take away the 22-inch black rims and configure with the High Country Ultimate package, and you'll end up roughly with the same MSRP. I always have to seem to remind people that the MSRP is not what you'll pay in the store. It is just a benchmark, and you will pay less, as also these are in Canadian dollars, so it is going to sound like a lot if you're living in the US. But this truck is all new for 2019. It should have set the bar for what a top-end pickup truck should do. Rather, it feels like playing catch-up with the 2018 F-150. The 2019 Silverado hasn't reinvented anything, and that's likely why the Ram 1500 was an easy winner amongst voting North American automotive journalists when it came to crowning the champion for last year. GM revealed the next generation heavy-duty truck a couple weeks ago, and it seems like a lot of the serious tech innovations went into those, so we're hoping to get our hands on them. 2 minor things that we found annoying with the Silverado included the automatic high beams. They'll only work if you aren't using the fog lights. Now let me explain quickly. Fog lights normally turn off when the high beams are on. That's normal, but it'll do it automatically on every other vehicle we've driven. With the Silverado and GMC Sierra, the automatic high beams will only enter the ready state if you've manually turned off the fog lights. For us, this is stupid. As normal driving, we keep them on to help illuminate our country roads at night for low beam visibility, but can't have the auto high beams on for whatever reason. Now this should be easily fixed by software and maybe was just an oversight. Second, the rear windows often fogged up, with or without my daughter in the back seat. The 2 center console vents are a plus over the previous generation, but still doesn't provide enough airflow for rear passengers, something once again Ford and Ram have figured out. But now that we featured all 3 major US pickup trucks on test drive, which one takes your pick? Let us know in the comments below, and tell us if you'd like to see more pickup trucks on test drive. We've requested to get the heavy-duty versions of the Ram and GMC Sierra later this year, but if you want to see something specific, let us know, and we'll see what we can do.